Commissioner Dvorak has a prayer.
Dear Lord, let us pray for hope during this pandemic. Pray for those who are overwhelmed by anxiety and stress, for all those who have survived, for our firefighters, police, emergency medical workers, for our doctors, nurses, and all healthcare professionals, for those who serve in the armed forces, for the greater appreciation and love for all humanity, for calm in the midst of fear, for grace to overcome adversity, for hope in times of despair. Gracious and loving God, you are our comforter and hope. Strengthen us in your time of need. Inspire us hope for a brighter future. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner's Office requesting the Board approve and execute the minutes for the meeting of June 16th, 2020. A motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner DeWart?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye.
You don't have your, huh?
Jim was not here for that meeting.
Oh.
Abstain.
No.
That was the 16th.
Is it the 16th meeting?
Yes. I'm sorry.
So you'll abstain from
I
that?
abstain.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
That's okay. I was looking at it at the top, but there was so much at the top, I didn't see the second one.
Okay, on July 10th, for aging, I accepted the resignation of Hannah Dussing, Adult Day Services aide, to be effective July 31st, 2020. For the Commissioner's Office, approved and executed the 2021 County Commissioners Association of Ohio Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Plan Agreement and Bureau of Workers' Compensation Employer Statement between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and the CCAO Service Corporation. For transit, approved and executed the Ohio Motor Fuel Tax Refund Claim for transit buses for the period April 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2020 in the amount of $2,800.47, $243.34 for diesel, and $2,557.13 for gasoline, and it concurred with Auburn Township trustees in not requesting a hearing on the liquor license being requested by Helen's Auburn Beverage LLC, doing business as Helen's Auburn Beverage, located at 11700 Washington Street, Chagrin Falls, Ohio.
Thank you. Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Hello. Okay, so today's financials include a supplemental from ADP and their contract services fund transfers out account to allow for a transfer to the general fund, and a supplemental from the auditor's office in the local coronavirus relief fund in various accounts. There's a cash transfer from the general fund to public assistance for our July through September 2020 mandated share. There's an encumbrance contract with Donnelly's Incorporated from the Commissioner's Office for the construction manager at risk work on our new county buildings project. Among the vouchers are $37,689.15 from the Commissioner's Office to the Airport Authority for the runway lighting and safety improvement project. And finally, there's a revenue certification from the Board of Elections for additional state revenues in their Help America Vote Fund.
Excellent. Okay, any discussion? Motion to approve financials.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner DeWart?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye. Thank you.
very much.
Yep, appreciate it. Okay, airport. How are you today?
Good morning. Thank you
Good.
for your time again. It hasn't been very long.
Yes,
Today
sir.
I'd like to ask you for a resolution to allow the Airport Authority to apply for a fiscal year 21 grant through ODOT, Department of Aviation. There's a hump that is preventing us from getting a night approach to runway 29 that needs to be graded out, and that's high on the priority. We've asked that you also will help match that $1,500. That increases our odds of getting the grant from ODOT.
Very good.
The airport's going to match that as well, $1,500.
So this would be proposing cutting this hump out of the runway and then
Basically regrading, yes.
regrading it. Okay, pretty good.
Sounds good, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner DeWart?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Thank you
Have
very
a good
much.
day.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, this is the auditor's office.
This was, sorry, this is the, to waive the blanket limit of $25,000 on the local coronavirus relief fund and set that maximum at $100,000. This is the funding that we got from the state for the CARES Act.
Yeah.
The discussion has everything, all those reimbursements in the CARES Act were, and anything purchased would go through the auditor's office, so we didn't have multiple steps occurring. But in order to do that, they have to set up blankets, and currently under the rule, we can only have one blanket at a time open for a maximum of 25,000. If we do that, they're gonna be constantly, that we get 800,000, so rather than having 32
Yeah.
blankets that need to be open through the time, we can reset that to 100,000.
100.
And they don't have to open 8, and it would be.
And that doesn't
it would
affect
be every day
anything?
or every other day. No, it's just how the
Okay,
process.
very good. Okay, can we get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes. All right. Shane, good morning.
Morning.
How are you, buddy?
Very good. Just the one item today, asking the board to approve the award to Roniak Paving for the resurfacing of Burton Windsor, County Highway 14, sections A through E, in the amount of $1,191,108.50. They were the lowest, determined to be the lowest and most favorable bid.
All right. How's the bidding looking on this job in particular?
Good, tight. For a later job, we expected the prices to be elevated, but they were below our estimate.
Mhm.
And we're satisfied that
What about the number of bidders? How'd that look?
we have
Three.
three.
Here,
Good.
they're right here.
And, I mean, we used to get, upwards of 6, 7, 8 different contractors back in the day. I mean, what's happened? Have they just,
Not-
they're just not bidding out here, or what's?
Not a lot of our paving projects were getting that many.
Yeah,
3 is common. Occasionally there's a 4th or even a 5th, but most of the pavers that do work around this area either are too small, they're
Mhm.
more of a residential,
Mhm.
commercial type, or they're the big heavy highway, they want the multi-million-dollar state projects where
Mhm.
they can equip for that. So there's a small group of contractors that these jobs fit for.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's really come down to 2 that I recognize over the last, 3, 4 years that are bidding on the same job. It's the 2 contractors. I see there's one in here, I don't recognize them, but what happened to like Kokosing? Where'd they go? I mean, I heard something about a partnership on their plant with
Yeah.
Roniak. Is that
Mhm.
why they're not bidding anymore?
they've bid a couple projects this year.
Mhm.
They haven't been as competitive
Mhm.
in Geauga County. Again, they're very well suited for the interstate work, and they
Mhm.
get a lot of that. And I think scaling down to our
Mhm.
size, our price per mile is pretty competitive.
Mhm.
And it's hard for them to hit that number.
I see. Okay.
We get a lot of work
to be
done.
done this year?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be from Burton Village all the way to 528?
Correct. And there is a clause in there that they cannot work on the portion between the village and,
Hale?
no,
During the fair.
yeah, during the fair, the A through C section.
Okay.
608 to 608.
To 608, thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Okay.
They started down the
I'll make that
village
motion.
Second?
side. Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Yes. All
They
right.
started on the village section.
Oh,
On
is that
Goodwin,
right?
on Goodwin.
Oh, yeah, they like cut a huge section of the hill out.
Oh, nice.
They took
Yeah.
going away on the other side, so.
Do we need to sign anything?
Nope.
No.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Shane. Appreciate it. Okay, Linda, good morning.
Morning.
See, good morning again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a replat for Nottingham Woods. K-Large, they own sublot 17 off of Sutton Place. They had to purchase 0.59 acres from an adjacent property owner who fronts on Bass Lake Road, and the area is going to be added to their sublot in order to accommodate a septic system area. So it was approved at last month's planning commission meeting.
Very good. Your motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes. Excellent, thank you, Linda. All right, Dave.
Morning.
How are you, sir?
Hi, Dave. So, first order of business is requesting the board to approve the revised organizational chart for Department of Development. So, you know, we eliminated that assistant director position, we added the director position that was approved by this board.
Right.
So we're just basically cleaning that up and got the building department.
Yep. Excellent.
That's the request.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner DeVore?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes.
And then our second order of business there is to request your permission to advertise for the multi-certified inspector two,
Mhm.
job grade 1110, remain posted until filled.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner DeVore?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Levesey?
Yes. Great, thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Right. Water resources.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good morning,
I'm getting lots of compliments in my hat.
as it should be.
Yeah.
As it should be. Good morning, everyone. So, the item we have here for today is requesting that you grant permission for us to advertise for bids for the sewer sludge disposal, biosolids disposal. And to be held on Wednesday, August 5th, we'll be accepting bids. And we're going to advertise on the 16th and 23rd of January.
So what, is this a?
July.
July.
Is this an annual bid, or how often do you need to go out and bid?
Well, are we talking past practice? Usually it's on a service contract of up to $50,000, but it's been costing more, and so we've decided to go with a 3-year contract to cover the costs instead of doing it annually. We have a firm that takes the sludge and uses the gas to produce electricity, Quasar Energy Services.
Oh, yeah. Is
And-
that down in Valley View? or-
Yeah, there are a few
Yeah.
locations.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone will come close to us, but that $50,000 just has been causing us a challenge. So it'd be better just to bid it out and be done with it, even though it takes more time.
So is this the sludge that you'll vacuum like out of your trucks? Is that the stuff?
It's the
or no?
sludge from all our plants.
Plants.
We store it out at, after it's dewatered, we store it out at McFarland, and then periodically they'll come out with trucks, and we'll load the trucks with the sludge, and they'll take it to one of their facilities.
I see. So it sounds like there is some value in it then?
Well, yeah, instead of landfilling the
Yeah.
sludge, it's actually being used. Eventually, they'll have to
Mm-hmm.
landfill some of it, but you're getting, I mean, it is a green way of doing things,
Mm-hmm.
very much so. And since it's municipal sludge, it really doesn't have much toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
They take it in front of the process, but one of the nicest things they do is they take on all the responsibility for it. If we landfill it, then we're still the county is still responsible for it, even sitting in that landfill.
Really?
Right,
Under
can
the
always
EPA,
come
but
back.
they actually, because they have their own NPDS permit, when they take it, it becomes their responsibility.
Okay.
Which is pretty unique, actually.
That's a huge liability that is taken off the county.
All right, so this is new, so we don't really have a real idea. Do you have an estimate of what your bids you think were gonna be for this, or?
Oh, in the specs package, we gave them the number of tons to bid based
Mhm.
on the average disposal we've had the last 5 years.
I see.
And we're looking around 80,000 a year.
Okay.
They'll also take the sand out of our plants too, so.
How many of the sand plants do we still have? Aren't you getting away from those?
Yeah,
or
we
something?
are. It's not as much, but it's more expensive because they can't
Yeah.
do the biogas on that they wind up landfilling.
Landfilling now.
We are pursuing right now a firm that actually washes the sand.
Hmm.
We're looking into that, but
And then what? You
it can be
use
reused,
it?
we can reuse
Use
it.
it,
Instead
okay.
of just, it's
There's
waste of
still-
landfill.
There's still about 15 plants in the county, the county owns and operates that uses the old sand filters.
Those are the older ones,
They're-
right?
Well, they're mostly the smaller ones that are 10,000 gallons a day or less.
Okay.
Just to do any of the more current technology for filtering
Right.
is too cost,
I
it's
see.
cost prohibitive in
It's
those
so
smaller
small.
plants.
Okay, okay, great, okay, that sounds good. Any other questions or comments? Questions? None? Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Aye.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes. Awesome, thank you.
And then just while Steve was here, just wanted to bring the commissioners up to speed on where Chardon Township Sewer Project
Yeah.
is at right now. It's been about 7 weeks since the hearing was completed. I think it's actually 7 weeks today, if I'm not mistaken. We have not heard back from the court yet on a decision one way or another.
Okay.
So that project is still temporarily on hold. As soon as we get that decision, we're ready to roll forward. We got the contractor in place and
Mhm.
they're ready to go. So as soon as we can get a decision from the court, then we're able to move forward.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, the timeline, the deadline's still January 29th. We won't meet that. But if we can start construction soon, we'll have some work on the way.
January 29th
Yeah.
of 2020, that's the complete date, or that was the estimate?
That was
Hopeful.
the extension.
Extension.
We requested.
Okay,
But in the findings and orders, that's actually the date that the sewer system is supposed to be in place and accepting sewage, which
okay,
isn't gonna happen.
right. Do you have to file another extension, or no?
With the
It's been
EPA,
6
with the
years.
EPA, if we're under construction, they won't require to do an extension on that.
Okay,
If for some reason the project stops, then they would have to go and request an extension,
okay,
not be under findings and orders.
very good.
It'd be fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks.
Bye-bye now.
Okay, oh, Kelly's here? Oh, good, okay. Yep.
How are you, Kelly?
So today we're requesting you to approve and authorize the purchase of gym equipment for the Board of Developmental Disabilities Benson Bob Center using the Sedco Wellness Grant Fund not to exceed $5,000
Mhm.
for the employees to use in accordance with their procedure for use and their liability.
Excellent, okay. That's a good, with this.
We have had a few employees, lifting and moving around the clients, so this will help promote strength and stability and training for powerlifting and stuff.
Very good.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Aye.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Diane Jones, Auburn Township. Have a question for you before you
Sure.
leave. Notice that on the previous commissioner's agenda, the limit for spending was identified as $4,926.
The
yeah, why?
website that we looked at, we looked at various entities to get the lowest cost. When I put that together, they were offering free shipping, and since then, they've changed the website. That was for a limited time offer, so they've changed the pricing, so I'm currently waiting for a new quote on the freight charge for delivery.
So the limit of $5,000 includes the shipping then, you believe? Okay, thank
And
you.
if it were to exceed that amount, the Department of DD has agreed to pay any excess over $5,000.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Commissioner's Office requesting the Board approve and execute resolution number 20-075 to hold a special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for a work session with Geauga County Agricultural Society Fair Board to be held at the Geauga County Fairgrounds on Friday, July 24th, 2020 at 1 p.m. This will be to discuss matters relating to the upcoming fair, the fairgrounds, and to review the renewal of the existing lease. Get a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Aye.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes. And agenda item number 13, the Commissioner's Office requesting the Board discuss and request from probate juvenile court for outside counsel for the purpose of litigation with the auditor. Before we make that motion, we do have juvenile probate judge Tim Grandel, and I would just like to forward if you have any comment or question, or,
I just was here to answer any questions
Okay.
the commissioners may have.
Okay.
Thank you.
okay. So if we could get a motion, please.
So moved.
Hold on. What are we making a motion for? This is just a discussion.
Oh, okay,
I don't have any action at this time.
Okay,
I was
okay.
waiting for you guys to discuss what you wanted to do.
yep. So it's been requested by the juvenile probate court for outside legal counsel. You know, we received the request when, last week?
Yeah, I think it was July 2nd was when
Okay.
it came in, so the fee.
So we've received, I think, maybe 3 or 4 different firms from the court, correct? And then also, we were going to have the prosecutor's office as well solicit some other local law firms just for comparative rates. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And what's the time frame on that? How quickly? I know we've received a
Yeah.
few from.
I would assume that Jim could get answers back fairly quickly from other law firms that, that he
Yeah.
would solicit numbers from.
Because I would like to try and, I'm sure the court's probably waiting to, I mean, this is basic, I mean, there's no pending litigation yet, I guess, until the litigation starts from the court, right?
Correct. I think they.
But I'm sure
the
they're-
court though has some of their vendors that have threatened litigation.
Okay. And then, but would we have, I guess what I'm getting at is, do we have to wait till next Tuesday to make this motion to approve one of these law firms for them as a board?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna ask Jim to go out and get those rates, then that would be what you'd approve today, is requesting the prosecutor to go out and get rates, and then
Okay.
you can establish a date and say, if you wanna say, to have them in by for next Tuesday
Okay.
session.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, just for the record, there are financing fees being charged by the vendors because the auditor won't pay the legitimate bills that were court approved for public court purposes. And so every day of delay is costing the county taxpayers more money, unfortunately, not because of anything the court has done, but because the auditor continues to refuse to pay the lawful expenses of the court. I mean, we can go till next week, and we appreciate the commissioners moving forward. We do have an issue since the prosecutor is conflicted out of this, and that's why we have to get outside counsel. We're a little curious how he could be doing any work on soliciting anything, since he shouldn't be involved at all because he has a clear conflict in the matter. But
What conflict, meaning what?
he can't be involved because he represents the auditor and he represents the court by statute.
Right.
That's why we're here in the first place.
But I think that decision's being made by the commissioners, not the prosecutor, correct?
But he's the one
Yeah.
who's picking and choosing what law firms he's soliciting, and the court just wants to object to that.
I think there would be, the law firms that we currently use in the county, correct? I mean, wouldn't that be a fair assumption?
You can establish that as saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all know who those players are.
That have already been used or used in the past, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think from my position, just sitting here, I think the role of what the commissioners is just to say is in a reasonable rate, and that it's good counsel, I mean, but, obviously, if we're not gonna get, $1,000 an hour attorney in here or something like that, but something that's gonna be reasonable.
We have no objection
Yeah.
to keeping this down. We don't want to
Yeah.
do it to begin, but we'd like to resolve this amicably. We've been trying for 2 years and not succeeded through no fault of our own.
I guess
But the question I have for you is, just because somebody is a lawyer in Geauga County doesn't mean they're experienced in filing matters in the Ohio Supreme Court.
Right.
This will be an Ohio Supreme Court matter.
Right.
I would just ask that while we keep an eye on the cost, we remember we need somebody of a skill set who can handle a matter of this complexity. And I would suggest to you there's very few firms in the local area that can do that.
Yeah.
And I've
Well-
been told that the Thrasher, Dinsmore, and Dolan firm, which is qualified, is conflicted, so they're no longer able to be.
Yeah,
considered.
I think there's some, I mean, you would know better than I as far as the quality or the expertise, but again, we got to be within reason too, as far as how much this thing's going to cost. I think that we're going to probably see at the end of the day, we're going to pile up more in legal fees than what the actual bills are going to be. At
There's
the end.
absolutely no question about
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
Commissioner Lennon, and that's why this matter should get resolved and those bills
Right,
should be paid.
right.
It's sad that the taxpayers are going to spend more money for lawyers because the county auditor won't pay legitimate court-approved court expenses.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll come to some type of resolution at the end of this. I guess the other question is, with, my understanding is that there is some type of mediation going on right now with the Supreme Court. Is that true?
Not true. Back in last year, 2 years ago, when this first started, the auditors did the beginning of not paying 200 legitimate debts in the court or delaying those payments. The state auditor Faber sent an email that said, this is the state auditor, we were and still are willing to mediate this dispute with you, meaning me, and the local auditor. You were graciously willing to do this, but unfortunately your auditor was not. We have expressed our displeasure with him and his association over that decision. Then Attorney General Yost told me in August of last year, it is my thought that your recourse in relation to this is to make an appropriate action filed with the Court of Competent Jurisdiction, which is a mandamus action under 31916. We have spent 2 years trying to avoid the situation. Last year, we went to a mediation with the Supreme Court that I requested and spent thousands of dollars of my own personal money for counsel. For some reason, the auditor was represented by Corsa, which I don't believe was proper, but that's another discussion. That mediation was as unsuccessful as Mr. Faber's effort to try to get us to mediate in the first place, not through any fault of the courts. And as we sit here today, there is no mediation pending anywhere. But if we do file this action, when we do file this action, because we don't have any choice because these vendors are entitled to be paid by law, the Supreme Court will once again impose their mandatory mediation requirement, and we will go down to Columbus and again attempt to mediate with the auditor, but I have no faith or hope that that will have any more benefit than Auditor Faber's effort to get a mediation or the last effort that I paid for out of my own pocket to get a mediation. So while we will be open to mediation, we're not feeling very hopeful that it's going to have any better return, and we fear that this has to go all the way with the Supreme Court so that the Supreme Court will once and for all tell our county auditor, who is the only auditor out of 88 auditors in the state, who is refusing to pay lawful expenses of courts that have been approved by a local judge.
I must have been either I misunderstood or told wrong information, but I thought the auditor's office was in some type of mediation, but it
Not
sounds
with
like
us.
Huh?
Not with us.
I would say what I was told was that they were in mediation over the 3 items.
They're lying if they're telling you that, because we're not involved, and none of the vendors are involved. Mr. Karlovic has threatened to sue us because his bill hasn't been paid. It'll be only a matter of time until the Chagrin Valley Times sues us. The other gentleman who did the robocall services for us has already threatened to sue us, and it would be.
what was the robocalls? What were the robocalls pertaining to?
When the COVID matter struck, the Supreme Court put out an order about what courts had to do. I put out a rather detailed administrative order on March 16th explaining how the court was going to continue to operate, but under what circumstances and what people were going to have to do vis-a-vis availability of court services and how they were going to access the court for those services. The robocall advised our citizens that first and foremost, our court will remain open and provide judicial services to our residents. Some procedural hearings will be conducted by teleconference. Non-essential hearings will be rescheduled. Essential hearings like emergency custody, guardianship, statutorily required hearings will be held in court, but only the parties, their attorneys, and required witnesses will attend. Filings will be accepted by fax during that period, which was an exception to our normal rule. And all individuals coming into court will be required to wash, sanitize their hands upon entering the building. Counter table, doorknobs will be disinfected. People's temperatures will be taken. It was the only and cheapest way we could get that message out to 93,000 residents of Geauga County that our court would still remain open while other courts in the county were closing, and under what circumstances and what cases were going to be handled live and what circumstances and cases were going to be handled by teleconference. The point, though, is that decision is mine and mine alone, and just for the benefit of the folks in this room, we're not talking about tax dollars. The dollars that we're arguing over here are what's called special project funds, which are dollars that do not come from the general revenue fund and do not come from the tax dollars or taxpayers, but are dollars that are generated off of court fees and specially designated for court expenditure by the state legislature that even you folks can't veto the spending of, and there's no way in the law the auditor can veto that. The other expenditure that's being held up here, the county engineer got their website redone, the park district got their website redone. We elected to use the same vendor that they did for their website, and he's refusing to pay for that website work, even though that comes from the computerization fund, which also does not involve any tax dollars, but comes from other dollars and fees, and by statute is given to the courts to be used for their IT purposes. There's just no basis.
How much are we talking about with those robocalls?
Robocall was $2,000. The two ads that were put in the news, the Maple Leaf and the Grand Valley Times had to do with our effort to do Zoom good deeds, since we couldn't do good deeds, which has been recognized by the John County Department of Aging for its contribution to our senior citizens. That was $900 each for those ads, and so we're talking $4,000 total for that, and another $24,000 for our website, which is less than the other departments spent, but they're just not, they didn't have their expenditures held up by the auditor's office.
So
We're talking about $28,000.
So is this was the ones where it was saying it wasn't paid for with tax dollars? Is that,
Right.
is that the ones?
They said they were not paid for by tax dollars because they were not paid for by tax dollars, number one. But number two, there's no law in the state of Ohio that gives the auditor veto power or censorship power over what a court can say in any disseminated publication of the court. You don't have that power, neither does the auditor. There is something called the separation of powers doctrine.
I like the separation of powers, and it goes both ways, right? We agree with that?
In this case, it goes one way.
Yeah, really?
The court gets to decide whether it disseminates and publishes.
We get reminded of that frequently, about the separation of powers.
I understand.
Yeah. But, well, thank you. Is there any other questions or comments, or, I would like to try and expedite this process so they can begin to, so if we could, I know we will take into consideration your requests, and I think it's narrowed down to 2 firms now, with the one having a conflict, so, getting somebody that's a reasonable price range and somebody that you feel is competent to, achieve what you want to achieve, so.
And Commissioner Lennon,
Yeah.
the court has never tried to usurp your authority. However, I will say this, I will continue to try to resolve this at the lowest cost possible, because it really should be resolved without litigation. But now it's fair to pay these vendors, it's giving us no choice.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do. So the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board authorize the Prosecutor's Office to request and obtain rates for attorneys with possible representation of the Jack County Court of Common Pleas, Probate Juvenile Division by outside counsel for the court's request submitted to Prosecutor Blaze pursuant to ORC 305.14.
Okay. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner DeWart?
Yes.
Commissioner
Aye.
Spudler? Commissioner Lennon?
Yes. Okay, very good. So anything else coming up? Nothing too pressing here.
No, the Family First Council that you had on Monday has been canceled.
Yep.
So that's been removed. Just Directors Commission meeting today at 11.
Mhm. That's Jim.
Yep.
Chairman.
So Friday, we're gonna meet back, we'll meet at the
So the
fairgrounds.
24th is not on here because we just did the resolution today, so yes, next Friday, the 24th at 1 o'clock at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
What building?
I'm not sure, I have to confirm, it's just one of their offices. He mentioned the lounge, so I will specify that when I put out the.
Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Question, gentlemen?
Yes.
Is there a chance that this board can get the health director, Tom Quaid, to provide an update for the community?
Yeah. He does. Do you get his newsletter?
I don't.
Are you on that list?
I don't believe so.
So he does put out is it a weekly, or is it not a weekly?
I don't think he has it set up to be
I'll forward you the last one.
Any
you
specific
gave me.
time, it's just kind of when something changes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
it's been a long time, and our feeling is that things
Yeah.
have changed, particularly the status of this county in regards to the governor's
Yeah.
overall plan. So that presents a little bit of a concern.
No, you're right. Jerry, I said the exact same thing to him a week ago. I said, I would like to, so we had a conference call just to kind of, I wanted to get up to speed on what's changed in the, since the last,
Last week.
yeah, right.
So,
Um,
so then what will be the status of this request then?
We can request to have him come in next week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, but I know he does put out a publication, I think to the entire public. I don't know if
Yes, I think it's whoever's, mostly for people who have called and asked questions.
I'm sure
They
the
get emails
newspapers
so that
get
they
it.
can keep getting information out.
He
to
does
those.
post it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we personally have not seen it.
Okay.
So I suppose we can find out, is that available through?
I bet you it's on their
If you-
website.
Yeah, it's probably on, the access is probably on the website, I don't know, because
Okay.
I've looked at that
Okay.
specifically, but if
Other
not,
than
you
that, I
call and
guess
talk
he
to
can
their
welcome-
secretary and they'll put you on the list.
Sure, I'm sure he can field some questions that
Oh,
I
yeah.
may have, but I think it would be better for all told if he were to make, that kind of appearance to build self-confidence and truth and knowledge. Those are important.
Yeah, here, you see, you put a press release out last Friday. So is that one of the, yeah.
It seems like some things are escalating all around our county.
Some things
I
are
had some business in Pepper
escalating.
Pike the other day,
Right.
and everybody had a mask on, even at the gas station pumping gas
Right.
and everything else. So
And I
we're in a
think-
pocket that is not quite escalating yet.
Right. Yeah, you phrased it correctly, thank you.
I mean, I have some questions as to those triggers that kick you into a different level, though. Like, there was some, ours changed in the last, week, or?
Yeah, we're in the.
We went from a,
Because I had a discussion with them after that happened, just to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the initial trigger, when it first came out, we were in because of the one item that basically was that if 50% of the cases in the last week were not in congregate, which when the governor first came out with that, I personally said, that puts every county in at least
Right.
one, unless they have an outbreak at a nursing home, an existing outbreak at a nursing home or somewhere. So everybody's gonna hit that one
Yep.
probably.
Right.
Because even if you have one case, now you have
Exactly.
50% that aren't congregate. What happened was between when that first came out in last week, was that we hit, the second thing we hit was the number of doctor visits by
Right.
people who had symptoms. So it was, that was what popped us into that one.
Makes you a little bit concerned about going to visit the doctor, maybe, if you're gonna get reported for something you're unaware of.
yeah.
Well, I mean, they're not, I guess, the way he explained, because I kind of asked a similar question to that, and he said, the way he explained it is, it's not, they're not giving like all the information, it's the doctor saying, hey, I had a patient today who presented with this. So it's not, I had a patient, Jane Doe, who presented today.
Right,
It's the-
and
it's-
then it's being utilized
yeah.
perhaps a little differently. Yeah, I would very much appreciate that update.
Sure, we can request that.
Thank you.
Yeah, be helpful, I think. Yeah. Okay, very good. Enjoy the rest of your day.